Well, with General Mkhwanazi, Paul O'Sullivan, now Mike Miller, the news cycle in South Africa seems to be very focused on our internal issues, but lest we forget, there's still the very important matter of tariffs between the United States and South Africa. Anthony Ginsberg, the founder of GinsGlobal, a Cape Townian, a South African who's been in the United States for a long time, is intimately involved in this whole process, and he's going to give us hopefully some good news. Anthony, thank you again for getting up or staying up so late on your side of the world. You're in California. What's the time now?
No problem. It's 10:30 in the evening, but
not too bad. Not too bad indeed. Now, you are going to be moderating a panel for the YPO, at their Global Business Summit. You moderating a panel on global trade and tariffs. Now, your South African accent's going to give you away, and you've got Trump's former trade minister who's going to be on the panel. So I hope you're going to be asking some SA-related questions there.
Well, actually, Alec, I know the guy fairly well. He's the recent law partner of the current trade ambassador from the U.S., Jamison Greer, who's been dealing with Minister Parks Tau. And I do want to just say I give Minister Tau some credit. He's been trying really hard from 10,000 miles away without any representation, no ambassador in D.C., and he has been trying really hard. I've heard some positive messages coming out of the White House. Obviously, there are 2 or 3 stumbling blocks which we can cover. But, I mean, I've been in the U.S. since 1990 working on Wall Street. These guys are deal makers. Trump has brought in more than 24 Wall Streeters and lawyers, corporate attorneys, bankers. They're not politicians. These guys have actually just all come from the private sector. The Commerce Secretary, the Treasury Secretary, the U.S. Trade Representative. These are all corporate private sector guys. And by their very nature, perhaps what happened in Israel yesterday is not such a surprise. They want to cut deals. If they can do a deal in the Middle East, I think they can do a deal with South Africa fairly soon.
Like a soapy breakup scene, selling your car can be an emotional experience.
Just how dramatic was the car selling experience?
Not dramatic at all. I did my research and We Buy Cars was by far the best price.
Very not dramatic. But I like drama.
I was standing there watching my phone, waiting for the money to get in, and there it was.
Yes. Car, driving.
We Buy Cars, the easiest way to sell your car, by far.
I wouldn't mind a little more drama. Anybody bring me some tears?
It's so interesting, and let's just get this into context. In South Africa, the term businessman can mean many things. I've just read a book about Malema, which uncovers all of his, well, not all of his, but part of his malfeasance. And the crooks, the tenderpreneurs, they're all called businessmen. So in South Africa, if you're stealing money, you can call yourself a businessman. In the United States, it's a little bit different. When you get a top businessman in the US, this is a guy who actually understands what a balance sheet looks like. They understand business, the science of business. And so you're talking about a completely different animal here.
Yes, very briefly, Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, worked under George Soros for almost 2.5 decades. When you look at Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, he ran the Cantor Fitzgerald as one of the major trading Wall Street powerhouses. And typically speaking, the Treasury Secretary is a Wall Street heavyweight, and even lower down in the ranks as well. So the U.S. Trade Representative, which controls about 200 staff, this is the Trade Ambassador's office, essentially. They are busy with the South African Ministry of Trade and Industry. I know they're getting close, so I'm crossing my fingers, as we say, but Americans want direct engagement. You know, I'm married to an American, and they can be very direct. And the fact that we don't have representation full-time in the U.S. is a detriment, because obviously India, Mexico, these other places, I've been told, frankly, by that particular former trade minister, that in the U.S. they expect to see these delegations fairly often. The Japanese guy came about almost a dozen times before Japan cut that deal with the Trump recently. So we've got to increase the engagement, both with the White House, but also, frankly, with business here. As you know, the U.S. is the capital of finance, and we've in 3 years into a business cycle. This news covers finance. So just briefly, the U.S. stock market has essentially doubled in 3 years, Alec. We run mutual funds and ETFs. One of our tech funds is up about 70% since the Liberation Day tariff announcement back in April, but everything's rebounded. So there's a ton of American capital looking for a home. South Africa geopolitically is very, very important to the Trump administration. They don't want South Africa to fall into the laps of the Chinese or Mr. Putin or other places. They view Simonstown, it comes up in all my meetings, as geopolitically important. So there's a lot South Africa's got going for. The rare earths that China are currently limiting, perhaps in these export orders, South Africa's got droves of this stuff. So we're actually could be in the pound seats to get a deal done fairly soon. I'm hopeful.
Steenkampskraal with the opportunities there. And that's only a part of it, given that we haven't been exploring for the last 20 years because of poor legislation here. And we never explored really for rare earths before then because it wasn't that high on the list of priorities. Gold, platinum, etc. were there. So this is a treasure chest of potential minerals. And if I'm reading you correctly, the people on the American side of the negotiations are deal makers, and they will see this and they will say, okay, well, open up the potential for us to do business. And my goodness, we will do business with you, South Africa, create jobs, boost the economy, etc. So just got to get over the ideology.
Well, where the disconnect probably is that some of the Yanks that I speak to over here, I mean, I've been here a long time, and they say I have a mixed accent, half American, half South African, a little bit like Sol Kersner maybe. But what they say to me is, Anthony, if the economy in South Africa is barely growing at 1% a year for the past decade, and you've got all these rare earths, these minerals, you've got the citrus farmers, you've got the automobile exporters, surely you guys would like to do a deal with us. So Mr. Parks Tower, to his credit, is trying hard, but some of the balancing issues are non-tariff or non-trade issues, such as the political aspect, where if we could tone down some of the geopolitical rhetoric regarding the Middle East and perhaps Russia, that would be a very favorably viewed sign. And then the other issue is, obviously things such as making it more attractive for foreign direct investment in general. I know the investment to GDP numbers that you've had on your show, France, Korea, and others talk about we're at half the rates of other emerging markets. The Americans have a ton of money. They're happy to invest in energy, mining. They could probably help with all the different resources that we need to power smelters. There was just an article about chrome smelters that need more electricity in South Africa. So it's not a good idea to be ignoring this huge pool of capital that's sitting on Wall Street looking for a home, whether it's private equity money or whether it's the JP Morgans and other big firms that we actually work quite closely with in my business. There's a lot of reservoir of goodwill towards SA. That's the good news.
And these guys could become heroes, the South Africans, if they did a deal. If you just step back for a minute, you've got lots of capital on the one side. America's economy is 75 times the size of South Africa. So anybody watching this and saying, oh, yeah, we don't need them, we need them. The second thing is South Africa does not have the capital to develop, for instance, mining. And mining used to be the bedrock of this economy, still is. 43% of our exports are mining. And that, you can't buy those fancy bottles of Johnny Walker Blue and champagne from France if you don't have foreign exchange, and 43% of that comes from the mining sector. But the mining sector has been going backwards at a rapid rate because we've got dumb policies which chase away investment. So not even exploration in 20 years. You put all of this together, man, they could become heroes by unlocking it, and it doesn't look to be that difficult.
It's not that difficult. We have an amazing reservoir also of diaspora South Africans all over Wall Street, some of that still at the top banks, partners in Wall Street law firms who could really help get this deal across the finish line. I mean, we just have to frustrate to a certain extent using my career roots. Some of the guys said to me, even Americans use this word boyki sometimes, what on earth is going on about the ambassador? Why don't you have representation? Is your envoy finally coming? They ask me these questions. It's hard to answer them and say for more than half a year we haven't had representation on the ground. You actually have a long-term and a short-term game, Alec, here. We need to get the deal over the finish line and reduce those 30% tariffs down to the 10-15% range. Our old friend from Tanzania, the ambassador, who I know well from Tanzania, Elsie, she got her tariffs down to 10%. She's running rings around some of the other countries because she's got trade missions back and forth between Dar es Salaam and New York and other places. And she's also got sister or twin city arrangements with Detroit, Houston. There's a lot of long-term stuff that needs to take place to build up long-term trade between the countries. So trade missions and sister twin cities, those sorts of deals should be on the offing too.
Let's find our own Elsie Kanza, please, and rapidly. They exist in droves in South Africa. We've got many people who are up at that level and could make things happen. What about on the other side? When is Brett Pazel, the U.S. ambassador to South Africa, or nominated U.S. ambassador, going to actually arrive here? Any update on that?
He should be there within the next 4 to 5 weeks. What's delayed everything, including this AGOA issue we can talk about, has been the U.S. federal government has shut down. There's a CR, or a continuing resolution, through Congress at the moment that just didn't make it through the Senate, unfortunately, this evening. Basically, Congress remains very, very crucial to Brett Pazel, the American ambassador, being appointed. They've got to vote on him in the Senate. And there's some other key issues going on. Senator, you've got Ronnie Jackson, the congressman who's close to Trump, who's got this bill. It actually left the committee stages, which is important, in the House of Representatives. This is a targeted sanctions bill against South Africans who have done naughty things. It's under the Magnitsky Act, you'll recall, from Russia, where it's very targeted, not on the whole country, it's on specific people that they say they'll use the Zondo Commission as a guide who they'll go after. They've already mentioned, I believe, some names in there. And then you've got Senator Kennedy, who's a really outspoken guy in the Senate, not related to JFK. And this gentleman's now also introduced a sanctions bill similar to Ronnie Jackson. So we're on the out and on the back foot in terms of our media coverage here. I have a lot of American friends of goodwill who would love to do more business with South Africa, even those who would like to come on vacation. When they see what went on in the White House or the Oval Office, a couple of months back with our delegation, they got nervous. They're hearing about murders and crime and whatnot. It's a terrible advertisement for our country. So we really need to engage more with the American media and put our front foot forward as soon as possible.
Well, it's quite interesting on that front. We are flooded by visitors in the Western Cape, not so much in the rest of the country, but Delta, I know, because I heard Alan Windy the last Friday talking about it. Delta have now increased from 3 to 5 flights a week. So we've got one every day and more to come. United will probably be following them. So Americans, there must be demand for the Americans, for the normal Americans, ordinary Americans to come through. It's almost like we've got it all there, Anthony. We're so close, but there are just a few steps that need to be taken to push it all through. What are those steps? What does South Africa need to do to actually unlock this boost for the economy and jobs? Because that's really our big issue here.
Right. Well, I think it goes beyond poultry, chicken, and pork. And I know those are some of the very specific items that have been addressed with the trade delegation. Obviously, there are 2 or 3 issues such as BEE, broad-based black economic empowerment, that does come up repeatedly in my meetings in DC. And then also this whole land expropriation, EWC situation. The Americans are quite pragmatic. They said, look, we've got 620 American companies already operating in South Africa. They're happy there. Can't we just make sure that there's a market-related payout if something is expropriated? So they're not asking for massive changes. I think we're talking about tweaks here at the margins. On the BEE front, very quickly, some of the Americans point to India. And for those who know, India started off with empowerment, BEE type legislation. And over time, by the mid-90s, they narrowed it quite cleverly to encourage foreign direct investment. So perhaps we can take a leaf out of what happened in India. They still have some sort of empowerment, but they've narrowed it specifically to the public sector and other areas.
The big possibilities on this. You mentioned AGOA a little bit earlier, the Africa Growth and Opportunities Act, which used to give South African exporters duty-free access to the United States. That's now gone. It expired at the end of September, and we are now paying a Trump tariff of 30%, as you mentioned earlier. Any chance of that coming back?
Yeah, at the moment, Alec, it feels like a slow motion situation through Congress. And because everything has been shut down in DC, it just slowed everything to a crawl. I'm hoping it'll be a slow motion replay of a Springbok try over the All Blacks, but we're quite far up. We're probably at the halfway line at the moment, just in terms of AGOA. It's not clear if South Africa will be included or if it will be extended beyond 1 year or possibly 2 years. So when you talk to the other ambassadors who are here representing Africa, they're reasonably optimistic. The Lesotho and the Tanzanian ambassadors, I've met a few of them, but it's very, very slow motion, and this thing could drag on easily till end of November, even December. You need Congress to actually vote on it. The White House can't push that through on their own.
But the White House apparently only wants a 1-year extension. What's behind that? Is that more deal making?
Well, a lot of it's seen through a commercial lens here. This former trade minister that I'm interviewing and know reasonably well, he keeps talking about commercial diplomacy. This is what Jamison Greer and them are all talking about. They look at everything through the Chinese lens. They don't want, it's unsustainable to have these massive trade deficits with China. And Trump really is in the pound seats himself with this deal in the Middle East and what's going on with the economy. Some people think there's a wobble going on here. Truth be told, the Feds are going to lower rates at least once, maybe twice before January. And you can't fight the Fed, Alec, as you know. So the stock market most likely will continue to actually rise into the new year. So he's feeling pretty chuffed with himself, Mr. Trump. And he's happy to continue to slice and cut deals.
So AGOA, it's just a slow motion issue. And for South Africa, no guarantee that we will go back into AGOA should it be resuscitated, even if it is only for a year.
Well, just very quick, I didn't answer it fully. AGOA, we have a huge trade surplus with America at the moment, largely through AGOA and because of the automobile exports.
Just explain that. What does that mean as trade surplus?
Well, the AGOA is the African Growth and Opportunities Act, and because of the duty-free access we have for citrus, some of our nuts and other agricultural goods, including some of the larger automobile exporters, whether it's Mercedes or BMW, who I know unfortunately are cutting back now, we get significant benefits, basically landing these goods in the US at pretty much duty-free. To have a 30% hit on all this is a massive strike against us, and we're certainly not competitive. I know you had the 3 Afrikaner amigos on recently, and their points are absolutely accurate that, we all want to help South Africa. There's a lot of groundswell here to help, including across both the Republican and the Democratic side of Congress. But we all know that it comes down to really, I would say, EWC on the expropriation and then just the black economic empowerment, if something can be sorted out. But as I said, we've got over 600 American companies operating there. The White House, the indication are they're close. They want to get a deal done. But I would just say one last thing as a current and South African who's been here many, many years. We have to engage directly with Americans. You can't come for 3 months and then disappear. By not having a business-minded, trade-minded ambassador in this country who's not engaging with Wall Street and with Fortune 500 CEOs, it really is a detriment. It's very difficult, and I have sympathy for Hogg's Tower, who's basically negotiating with one hand tied behind his back in a way by not having somebody on the ground. The UK had this ambassador, Lord Mandelstam, and he basically got the deal over the finish line in the US. So you do need day in and day out representation here.
Well, if something's important, you send your best person. The problem for South Africa is the persons that they've sent. They might be best in an ANC perspective, Rasool and Jonas, but they certainly haven't been best from a US perspective. So what give me a profile of the kind of person, or indeed any names that would pop up for you? Would it be a Bobby Godsell, somebody like that who actually understands international business?
Well, I think everybody watching this, we all know that Trevor Manuels, Bobby Godsells, Adrian Balls, all these folks would be tremendous trade and business ambassadors who could engage one-on-one with the Wall Street leaders, CEOs, the types of mining executives that you're also talking about. I think you had the Indaba last week there.
Sipho Nkosi, he's retired now, so he's got wonderful presence. He'd be a good call, I would, given the profile of what you're telling us about, or that this person should be.
I think that there are 2 parts of the coin. You need someone who can do the short term and get the deal over, but there's also over the line. But you've got this long-term situation, organizing trade missions, ensuring that South Africans can actually get to see the right people in the US, engaging with senior business leaders in agriculture, in manufacturing, across various sectors. Unfortunately, even prior to Mr. Rasool, the previous ambassador, I believe, was quite ill and sickly for a while. So we've had almost no representation really for probably 2+ maybe 3 years here.
So, message to Pretoria, send a workaholic business person, not because we think that you politicians are that bad, but because a business person can deal with another business person, and they are who you're going to negotiate with. You can't send a politician to negotiate with a business person, but you can send a good business person, somebody who's actually done, had some achievements. You could send them to go negotiate with Team Trump, if you like. And that will get these deals over the line, one hopes, and to the benefit of the country, putting ideology aside for a while and practicalities of dealing with one of the worst unemployment rates in the world, which is a social time bomb.
Yeah, if I can just finish off and say, Trump respects big numbers, and South Africa can offer billions of dollars in terms of rare earth exports and other deals on the energy side. Minister Tower has done one or two things in that regard as well. So it's a really good start. So I'm hopeful. I would just say that if we can express some goodwill toward Mr. Trump, such as reestablishing diplomatic relations with one or two countries, perhaps Israel. If I put my Boer Hewitt hat on for a moment, since I grew up in the Karoo and I'm somewhat Jewish, these small things matter to the White House. Most other countries are re-engaging with a country like that in the Middle East. So, if South Africa is no longer seen as on the outs, and we're coming back into the fabric of, large countries in the world, I think it'll go a long way.
No more poll cut into the mainstream. Just finally, Anthony, before we let you go, what exactly is South Africa offering? Do you have any insight whatsoever on what South Africa is putting on the table that that because you say we're getting close to securing these negotiations. So what concessions have been made?
I think the concessions are narrowly on the chicken and the pork and areas. Also in terms of some rare earths, I believe South Africa also offered over $3 billion to import liquefied gas from the US. It's a relatively small number, but at least it has a B behind it, which would get Mr. Trump's attention. I think really the sticking points are not these specific issues in the trade dock. It's more the broader ideologies, as you say, things like BE. We can just work through those and tweak them a bit. And then the expropriation issue, Trump wants the 600 odd American companies and future ones to be protected so that there's some sort of market-related payout.
Anthony Ginsberg is the founder of GinsGlobal, and the thing that comes up for me here time and time again is that we're sitting on massive opportunities. South Africa's always been a country, always, with huge potential, cursed by its governors, blessed by its people. All the governors have to do now is just open their eyes. Don't drive the ideology that might have been taught to them by some archaic old system that has long departed relevance in the world, but just see what will work for the people of South Africa, the wonderful people of South Africa that everybody knows are A grade. So let's just open those doors, Pretoria. The opportunity is now, the opportunity is here, and the turnaround is possible, perhaps even for the ANC, if they do it right. I'm Alec Hogg from biznews.com.